welcoming to the Quadrant the best, the most generous, the most talented, the most beautiful audience in the world. The 115 audience, even though there's only... Yes, hooray! Welcome, thanks for coming to see my show. And before I continue the show, I just want to make sure that you're okay with being an audience, that you haven't forgotten in all the time that we've been locked up with COVID and locked down with COVID, that you still remember how to be an audience. So it's meant to be funny. So every now and then you might notice that you stop for a minute, and that means that you're supposed to laugh. And if you laugh, you'll be happy and carry on really smoothly. So would you like to try a little laugh? Ha ha! Very good. Now and again, he'll stop for a longer time. He wants a bigger laugh then. And I'll make him think that there's something. Now they're sad they didn't come up. People downstairs. So so that's laughing, and then occasionally might be a little bit of applause, just a little bit of golf applause. Harder, hooray, hooray, right. At the very end of the show, there will be a bucket. The bucket makes an appearance during the show, but at the end, because it's a fringe show, Eloise will be holding the bucket for you to fold up your money and put all your money in there. So that's what the bucket is for. It's traditional. It's a Brighton fringe bucket because it's from the seaside. Yes, so that's the bucket. Now the other thing is that I often at this point I say don't talk among yourselves, but if there's only one person who can't talk among yourself. Not to heckle, because it's not a stand-up comedy show. It's not a big, tough stand-up comedy comedian. He's a sort of clowny comedian, and if you heckled him, he'd be upset. So that it's better not to heckle. So that said, I think that's you seem to be a good audience. You've remembered all the points. Don't walk around. Don't jump up and down unless we're asked to jump up and down. So I can continue. And the show is about when I was alive. Things that happened when I was alive. One of the things that we used to do when I was alive is go to the beach in Ireland in the 1950s. Now, when you went to the beach in Ireland in the 1950s, you had to change under a towel. You couldn't let any flesh be seen. Not that there was any flesh in Ireland in the 1950s, but just in case. So I'll just demonstrate what the changing under a towel involved. Another thing that we used to do in Ireland in the 1960s was to go to see the military parade every Easter Monday. And one of the things about the parade that made the most impression on me, apart from seeing soldiers with guns marching by and little armoured cars and the aircraft flying overhead, another thing was that you knew the end of the parade was coming because you could hear whistling, piercing whistling sound, like a wall of sound coming towards you, slowly, the parade would be moving slowly, getting closer and closer. And what it was the all of the men watching the parade whistling, because at the end of the parade, the women of the Civil Defence Corps were marching behind the soldiers in their black uniforms, and all the men were whistling at them. And a tiny little boy, I didn't understand what this was, why this was. But so all the men, my dad didn't whistle, but all the other men seemed to be whistling. An entire audience of the parade, all whistling. So I'd suggest if any flesh does become, if I do show any flesh, you could let me know by whistling, and I'll cover it up to avoid any any trauma from seeing some. Right. So another thing I remember from growing up in Ireland was picture books I used to read, and one of the stories was the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. I always used to think about that story. Different people take different things from it, but the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, there's a plague of rats and mice, and he turns up and he tells the mayor that for an enormous sum of money he'll get rid of the rats and mice, and the mayor agrees because they're desperate. And the Pied Piper leads them down to the river. They all run past and run to the river and drown, so that the city is completely free of rats and mice. And then the mayor says, well, I don't know about that money. I was obviously only joking. It's a huge amount of money. No, well, I was only joking. I'll give you a $5 or something. And the Pied Piper says, no, you agreed, but the mayor won't pay. So the Pied Piper gets out a different fife. I didn't know what a fife was. It was something. Got out a different fife and played a different tune. And all the children of Hamelin followed him up into the mountain and disappeared. They disappeared through a portal. Again, I didn't understand what a portal was. All except one boy who came back to tell the story. He hadn't been able to keep up with the other children, and he saw them going off into this magical land. And I always thought that I always identified that I was like that boy. All the other children go to the magical land, and I didn't. Anyway, yeah, so that was the Pied Piper. Right. Now, when I was born, my parents would have looked forward to me being this age that I am now, and they would have looked forward to me being a man in my position. A man in my position would wear a suit and tie and a waistcoat. And I've always wanted to be a man in my position. I've never actually managed it. But I can at least tie a tie. That's something he said. A man in my position should wear a tie and a waistcoat. And that's what I'm about to do now, to show that I am, in fact, a man in my position. I've never actually been able to do it properly. But something always goes wrong. I turn up as a man in my position and find that I've left something out or something like that. There we go. So I'd like to talk to you now as a man in my position, and as a man in my position, I would like to say that and soon as you go back once, but you heard the good and the good so really you do that. So I big I've done this bit for foreign audiences, and I hope they realise I'm talking gibberish. Peekaboo. Peekaboo. Oh, you can go peekaboo. It's quite safe. You don't go away. You're still here. You go peekaboo. Don't fly. Go peekaboo. 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 Nobody ever knows what to do. Peekaboo. As good, right, man, my position is not good. Peekaboo. There's not good. Not good. I mean, I said, well, what are you doing in my hat? I said, man in my position. I'm a monkey. I said, he do peekaboo as well. Oh, he do peekaboo. Oh. I said, that's enough of that. Man in my position can't be mucking around with monkeys. Right, in the bucket, I'm going to take out some things from lockdown and put some things back. The thing I'm taking out of lockdown is performing on video for an international audience, because that's something I've done that I never did before. And the things I leave in lockdown are crossing the road when I see somebody else and wearing masks. So, is there anything you take out of lockdown? Anything good about lockdown that you want to continue? Nothing. What was the worst thing? What will you leave behind happily in lockdown? The masks. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's they're back in the bucket then. Back in the bucket with the masks. Okay. When I was a little boy, people talked to me the way you talk to little boys. And I just wonder if they realise they were talking to not just a little boy, but a man in my position. And would you talk to a man in my position in this way? No, you wouldn't. But this is what, when I was a little boy, I had to put up with, even though I am now a man in my position. And voices sounded like the voice in my head. It sounded like my own voice, like a little boy. Man in my position shouldn't have to eat broccoli. That's what I say. A man in my position wouldn't use bad language like that unless he was absolutely forced to. And making me eat broccoli would absolutely force me to. I have something else to say as a man in my position. So something very serious which has just been brought to my attention by astronomical experts. And this is the fact that the Earth is not going through space in a straight manner, but rather at a tilt. The Earth is tilted as it goes around the Sun. And this is why the mornings get brighter quicker than the evenings get darker. And this is called the obliquity of the ecliptic. The obliquity of the ecliptic. This is a tilt in the Earth. I don't know how long this has been going on. I wasn't consulted about it, and as a man in my position, I should have been. And I will therefore be taking action to counteract this tilt. So, in case you should see me proceeding homewards in the evening from my club and walking in this manner, it is not because I have consumed large quantities of alcohol. It is because I am counteracting the tilt of the earth, and I am in fact moving through space in a straight manner, counteracting the tilt of the ecliptic. And I would advise other people to do the same. It's a more efficient way of travelling through space so that you're travelling in a straight manner and not at a tilt. Thank you. There. So, as a show about things that happened when I was alive, it's about age as well. You're not too old for anything. You're not too young to try. The time is now. The day's to win. Tonight's your special night. It's here and now. We're going high. We're doing what we choose. Forget the numbers as we fly. We're not going to lose. They say it's just a number. Then they say that number's you. They say it's not important, but it tells you what to do. This is where the angels are. No one asks your age. There is no set. There are no tabs. You're always centre stage. You're not waiting for your scene and place. You haven't missed your cue. The spotlight's always on your face. The star of your show is you. It's nothing but some crooked lines darkening a page. It's not your name or who you are. That number's just your age. There isn't any past to hide. The future's not to fear. Your forever moment's all around. Just look around. It's here. For half your life, you're just too young. Then you're mutton dressed as lamb. Too old for this, too young for that. I wonder who I am. You're bigger than a number, and you're more than just a name. You're the boss of all the numbers, and you play the numbers game. It's just a little number, and a number can be halved, or doubled if you want to, or trebled. See, it's daft to let a little number put you in a cage. Just make it up. Invent it when they say, act your age. There. That's my thoughts about aging. And whatever age you are, it's always good to drink shots. And I'm going to drink some shots now. They're not real shots, they're iron brew. And it's always good to have a towel on the ground when you're going to drink shots. It's been proven. So, here we go. To drink shots, I'm going to need my shot glasses. And I have brought my shot glasses with me. So here they are. Right. My shot glasses. I better get my iron brew first because I can't see anything. That would be gone. So, I have to kneel down to do. Do I have to kneel down to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so I've got my shot glasses on. I can only vaguely see anything. Right, here we go. Because of COVID, people can't come and help me with this part. I did this last year as well. And people used to come up on the stage and pour the so here we go. Can you tell me, is it I can see it.
Yeah, good.
Wow. Oh.
I'm sorry, mate, it's just not.
All right. I don't think I know where the tube is anyway. Boy.
Careful.
I don't remember.